Hi guys, and welcome back to Radiance Unfiltered. I'm Lily and this is Maddie, and we're back for you with a third episode. So today we're with Dr. Lewellis, and we're going to be talking about adult acne, scarring, the concept of a second puberty, and again, looking through your crazy TikTok comments because there's been enough to cover 3 episodes so far. So hi, Dr. Lewellis, can you please introduce yourself?
Thanks for having me. My name is Dr. Stephen Lewellis. I'm a board-certified dermatologist practicing in the U.S. I live in central Wisconsin. The name of my practice is Above and Beyond Dermatology, where I practice what I consider integrative dermatology, and I have a podcast as well of the same name, Above and Beyond Dermatology. It's a pleasure to be here.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for coming on. Our first question is about adult acne. So could you just tell us an overview of what causes acne to reappear again in your early adulthood? So this is 20s, mid to late 20s.
There are a lot of common misconceptions involving this, and it's a very frustrating thing for people to deal with acne perhaps for a second time or just continue dealing with it from teenage years into adulthood. So we don't know exactly in every case what causes it, but certainly hormone changes will cause it, especially adult women. They are the ones who more commonly suffer from acne into adulthood, and oftentimes it's cyclical. So if you have a regular menstrual cycle, there will be cyclical acne flares with that cycle, and that's largely due to the effect of what are called androgens, a type of hormone, generally the male sex hormone, but we all have androgens, and the more androgen activity, the more oil that your oil glands or sebaceous glands are going to produce. That sticky stuff mixes with dead skin cells within our pores, if you will, and then mixes with the bacteria that's associated with acne. You have some chronic inflammation going on in your body, it's going to be even worse. That leads to acne, so that can be cyclical. But that one of the main driving forces is an increased androgen activity, things like testosterone, DHES.
Okay. And what external triggers would you say can also cause it in your mid-20s, such as sleep and other things?
The root causes of acne are what's going on within our actual hair follicles. Dead skin cells mixing with that sebum, that sticky sebum, mixing with the bacteria and creating these basically clogged pores that become inflamed and present as acne. And that can be triggered by things like poor nutrition, for eating too much soda, processed foods, to unhealthy gut bacteria that are leading to imbalance of hormones and not enough good stuff that our bacteria in our gut produce, stress, the variations in the hormones. So all of those things are contributors to acne. There's a lot of misconceptions or confusion and people talking over each other about what's a root cause versus a trigger. But anyway, any of those things can be external causes or internal causes rather, but worsened by external causes. And some of the external causes are simply just doing too much. People get really frustrated with their acne, so they do one thing and then it doesn't work for a few days, so they do another thing and they add and add and add, and that often makes the problem worse. So things that the skin just being attacked with too many different things is often a problem in terms of external things.
And you mentioned, just to go back a bit, you mentioned sebum and sebaceous glands. If you could just explain what those concepts are.
Sometimes I use the word oil glands if I'm trying to speak to a lay audience, but I try to use them both. Sebum is something that's produced by these glands in our skin. They're associated with the hair follicles. They're very close to each hair follicle within the skin, and some areas are more rich in these oil glands or sebaceous glands, such as the face, and oftentimes when men especially will have acne, but women can too, on the trunk, the back, and the upper chest and the shoulders. Those glands, they produce what is called sebum, and you can just call it oil, but sebum is something that helps lubricate and moisturize the skin. It's not the only thing responsible for moisture in the skin, but it does contribute, and it's secreted from these glands it's then sort of like pumped out into the hair follicle and released. So that's the more sebum you have, the more those pores, if you will, can get clogged and lead to the first type of acne, which is typically blackheads and whiteheads. And then that can transition into the nastier and more inflamed acne and cysts.
Thank you for clearing that up. And obviously a lot of teenagers will have had acne in like
their mid-teens whatsoever. But some people get it for the first time in their 20s, which can obviously be a really confusing time. So can you explain a little bit about why this might happen?
That's probably due to the fact that there are a number of different triggers and or root causes, and we'll just lump all of those together for the sake of clarity and communication. In that, when they were a teenager, maybe they got lucky and they just didn't have enough of these hormonal changes, or other parts of their life they were healthy enough that those certain changes didn't add up enough in a perfect storm type of a sense to lead to acne appearing on the body. This is similar with pretty much any chronic inflammatory skin disease that you have. You may have certain things that are underlying and that can add up to that thing showing up on your skin, but if not enough of them are there and adding up to a certain level, it won't actually express itself on your skin. So adulthood brings itself, adulting, it's hard. Stress, your hormones do change over time. Maybe you're not eating as well as you used to be, not hydrating as well. So you might get into adulthood and finally that perfect storm does happen. There's a concept called the morbidity threshold that's more that it can be used to describe enough things happening that you get over the threshold of the disease actually appearing on your skin. And if you can keep enough of those things limited, you can get underneath this morbidity threshold and not actually have that disease manifesting on your skin, even though you're prone to having it. So yeah, once in a while we do have people who struggle with it in adulthood and not as a teenager.
Yeah, because I think it's something that's not talked about enough, because I suffered with quite bad acne when I was a teenager, and it's hard enough then, but you kind of just associate it with something that you're going to get a hold of, leave, and when you're an adult you'll be fine. So I can't imagine how frustrating that must be.
Is not fair. And hair loss, like hair thinning or whatever, all these things. And acne we associate with as a teenage disease, and it's not okay to leave a teenager untreated. It can be very traumatic and detrimental, but like you said, it's somewhat to some degree expected. So there's not as much stigma to it. Whereas an adult who's trying to go to work and have a career and a life and a family and all these things, you might be thinking that people are saying, why does this person have acne? They're an adult. I thought that's for kids or for teenagers. So that is a great point, and I think it's really important to realize that, because this disease takes a much larger toll on adults than most people realize.
Okay, thank you. Our next topic is acne scarring in your adulthood, which obviously scarring can happen at any time of your life because it scars. But what type of acne would you say is most likely to cause scarring in the future?
Yeah, the one we worry about the most, and I ask my patients about when they come to me for acne, is what's typically called nodular or cystic acne, or sometimes called nodulocystic acne. There are a few types of acne that exist on a continuum, but that ranges from all the way from whiteheads and blackheads, which we call closed comedones and open comedones. It's just when it gets a little clogged up, that pore, and you feel a bump, but it's not red yet. Or red in a fair-skinned person, it can look a little bit more purplish in someone with darker skin. Then those can lead to what we describe as papules and pustules, the little pimples, essentially, little red bumps. Sometimes they have a white head on them. And then these deeper-seated things that feel like a pea or a marble underneath the skin take a longer time to go away, can be quite painful, might not have something that looks like a head on it. That's the type that I get most worried that is going to cause an acne scar. Any type of acne can cause acne scar, but much more likely when you're having severe nodular cystic acne like that.
Yeah, definitely. And is there any advice you normally give to people to reduce scarring? Is there anything that they can do to reduce it?
Yeah. First, number one, just treat as early as possible, and whatever treatments you are comfortable doing, the faster you can put the fire out without it constantly coming back, the less acne scarring you are going to be at risk for, and then the sooner you can start addressing the acne scarring. So that's the most important one by far. The second one would be try not to manipulate your acne pick and squeeze and things like that. It is a very hard thing for people to not do. And I have a lot of empathy for people in this. I say it's a no shame zone in here. I ask if people, we'll all raise our hands. I had them right in the middle of right here like 2 days ago, and I was in front of the mirror like that. It's just, I'd say when people tell me they do that, I say, okay, well, you're a human. So we did that. That's one diagnostic test that we've checked off the
Well,
list.
thank you for that. We actually we asked, I think you saw on our Instagram, we asked our audience questions, see if they had any questions for you. And I think the girl who answered knew you were going to say not to pick, because she said, if we have already picked our spots, I know that she knows that we shouldn't do it. What is the next step to making sure that that doesn't turn into a scar?
100% pure silicone gel is typically the best thing for scars in general. Also, sun protection. The more sun your scar gets, the less happy it's going to be over time. So really diligent sun protection. So those would be the main, my main easiest kind of low-hanging fruit with improving of scars. But you could also do devices, microneedling, things like this. We can discuss if you want.
Thank you.
Maybe more on a positive note. Do you have any messages for people who might be struggling? Any messages of self-confidence?
It's not kind of like the movie Good Will Hunting, a little bit older movie at this point, but hopefully it's still around. Robin Williams, Matt Damon. There was a famous scene, and he just looks at Matt Damon's character. There's a therapist, Robin Williams, and he says, "It's not your fault." Well, it's not your fault. And that was a very pivotal scene in the movie, and that is important to acknowledge. And it's also important to acknowledge the very significant effect that it has on people's lives, because some people have some shame in admitting that, and even when they're in the office, they say, "Well, I don't know, I don't want to be vain," but like, no, this really matters. This affects your life on a daily basis, pretty much every aspect of it. So give yourself some grace and acknowledge how difficult it is to be an adult or a teenager dealing with this, and then ask for help and find someone who's going to listen and make you feel confident that they're taking good care of you, and do that earlier rather than later. Advocate for yourself because there are treatments out there. If you're open to more conventional sort of pharmaceutical treatments, we can cure the worst, most severe forms of acne out there. Horrible, horrible looking acne that is disfiguring. In 6 months or so, in vast majority of cases, I can take that person to zero acne. And but I'm also open to people who are not, open, or for any medical reason can't do treatments like that. So there's a vast spectrum of treatments, and just find someone you trust and start working with them. And patience. That's the last. I know I talk a lot, but patience. 2 to 3 months of use of any acne treatment before making any judgments about it. The worst thing you can do is try something for a week or two, then try another thing, then try another thing, then try another thing, because you're either getting worse or you're not seeing changes. Acne can flare at the beginning of a treatment as well. So that might be a good sign, even though it's frustrating. So yeah, patience, early intervention, and just give yourself some grace.
Definitely. I feel inspired now.
Yeah, thank you for those lovely words. I hope you guys do too. So this second part of the podcast is my personal favorite. It makes us laugh. So if you've been watching so far, you would have heard episode 1 and episode 2. So we've brought some more, I was going to say silly, but they're not silly. Some more wild comments we had in our TikTok video. So I'll start with the first statement. This person made a turmeric paste face mask and ended up staining their face orange. Don't know why they would have done it, but they did.
Any thoughts?
Oompa Loompa, I guess would be my thought, just make another movie reference. That is a bummer. I'm sorry to that person who that happened to. But yeah, the first thought would be, I'm not surprised. Turmeric is probably used in some, I wouldn't be surprised if certain dyes, or it used to be at least, but it is a beautiful herb. Turmeric also has the active ingredient that we think of in integrative dermatology as curcumin or curcuminoids, and it can be anti-inflammatory. So a lot of people use turmeric for medicinal purposes, but it's got this beautiful dark orange color to it. And if I imagine if you make a paste into it and put it on your face, it may stain. Hopefully not permanently. I've never tried that, but I imagine it would wear off eventually. Hopefully it's not penetrating deep enough. Eventually those skin cells will slough off. But yeah, interesting idea, and it could have helped. It does tend to be anti-inflammatory, so it's an interesting thought, but unexpected consequence and unintended consequence. So we need to be wary of those. Probably because of the anti-inflammatory, known anti-inflammatory effects of it. Some people take turmeric capsules, for instance, as a supplement. There are certain skin diseases where I actually recommend a certain dose of turmeric to be taken to help with the inflammation. And acne partly is an inflammatory disease. So I would imagine a combination of that. Perhaps they knew that already, and maybe they saw it somewhere. Maybe perhaps they read about it and someone said that to do it, and unfortunately didn't warn them about the staining part.
So maybe there is method in the madness then.
There could, yeah, certainly. With turmeric, I love as an ingredient. There's a lot to be said for turmeric in a lot of different inflammatory conditions.
We've learned that, haven't we?
Yeah.
That there's logic.
There is logic. So our next comment is a bit of a worrying one. Someone used a pumice stone because they thought it was an exfoliator for their face, and their whole face ended up bright and red. I mean, I'm not surprised.
Yes, so it technically would be an exfoliant. People often use this for their feet, for instance, and that is a safer thing to do. And it's all about context. So oftentimes people will have in the shower or bath a pumice stone, and they have thick calluses in certain areas of the feet, and it helps to grind those down, and that can feel good, and it can relieve pain. It can make the aesthetic changes that are appealing, with the face, it's just a more sensitive skin and much thinner skin, and not going to have those calluses. So that person clearly got irritated from the trauma from the pumice stone. Probably exfoliated some dead skin cells as well, but similarly, unintended consequence. There are better and safer ways to exfoliate than a pumice stone, but I'm not going to say that they didn't do any exfoliation, but it was too much. It was using a hammer to tap down something very soft.
So don't do that.
Yeah.
This doesn't seem that crazy to me, this next one, because this person swore this cured their acne completely. Their skincare routine was water, Nivea soft cream, and Sudocrem. That's it. So obviously, we can't verify the severity of the acne or the improvement, of course, overall. But the only takeaway from this is that oftentimes less is more in acne, especially when we are surrounded by the internet. Not only we live in a great age where so many of us have access to so much more information than ever before, but the downside of that is people like we are today are empowered to create information and disseminate it to other people, and that there's no control over that information, and so whether it's evidence-based or safe or anything like that. So people get so frustrated by acne, and sometimes frustrated by experiences with dermatologists like myself, and they go to other places to find the sort of miracle cure, and they try things again and again. Like I was saying before, 1 week doesn't help, switch to another, and the skin is just so overwhelmed by being hit by all these different active ingredients that can be irritating, and it makes the condition worse. So sometimes just pulling back and letting your skin reset and breathe can naturally cure some things. I wouldn't expect it to cure a very severe case of acne that had a hormone driven by hormones and things like that. But the moral of the story is that less can be more. So what I often do with patients is take things away first, and then gradually add back in things that we think would help.
Definitely.
This next one, I don't know if this is makeup, hair care, skincare, but this person tried using hair gel, so
Slick back hair gel.
Yeah, instead of makeup primer. So that's what you put under your concealer normally.
Yeah.
I would guess that would not go very well for your skin in general. It seems like it would be what we call comedogenic. They're sort of ingredients when we tell people to look for products that are not good for acne, but not going to worsen acne, hopefully. And sometimes they say non-comedogenic. So there's certain ingredients that would, like you were asking before, what external things can trigger it. to me, putting hair gel on my skin, I would imagine, although I've never thought about it deeply or never done it, and I don't know the science behind it, I imagine it might clog up the pores a bit and be comedogenic, or at least irritate the skin in other ways. So I would guess that didn't end well, but unless the story was, I did this and it helped, but I don't know, did I miss the second half of it, or are they just asking my thoughts on it?
No, I just think that they announced it. I don't know if they wanted to.
Fair enough. Yeah, but I would guess, I have my guesses about how that might turn out, especially if you do it consistently. I mean, doing it one time, probably not gonna make much of a difference. I imagine it would make, given how my hair feels when I put hair gel in it, I imagine my skin would not feel lovely if after the hair gel has a chance to dry. So I would want to wash it off. There are certain ingredients that can work really well with mattifying the skin and as a primer for people who have acne prone skin. There are certain the favorite sunscreen that I use is actually a matte / primer based sunscreen, and it has this kind of silicone type of feel to it, so it goes on really nice. It's from a brand called Tizo, I imagine they weren't thrilled with how their face felt 10 minutes later. Maybe we should try it. I'll come back on and we'll all put it.
Yeah, be our case study. Guys, you need to stop using hair products as makeup. We had hairspray as setting spray. We've had hair gel for primer. You just need to stop.
I imagine it wouldn't be great, but I will have an open mind.
Also, I've heard a little bit about the benefits of using apple cider vinegar, but obviously not on the skin. Someone said in our comments that they've used it as a toner. I don't know how you feel about that.
Did you say tonic as a tonic, or what was the last word?
A toner.
Okay. Oh, toner. Sorry. Yes. I haven't had any sort of discussions or learnings about apple cider vinegar specifically on the skin. So I won't speak to that because I don't have the answer. But apple cider vinegar does have pretty good evidence for having beneficial effects in our bodies in general. So taken as, an ounce or so once a day, I bet if you did a long-term study, and maybe some people have, people who are having some apple cider vinegar on a daily basis are going to overall feel better and have better functioning of a lot of different systems. My guess about that is it's fermented. Our bodies like to have a little bit of fermented food, at least on a daily basis, because our very friendly bacteria in our gut thrive on fermented foods. They use them as what are called prebiotics. It's kind of like feeding the healthy bacteria in your gut. And then if we nurture and feed those, A, they're going to thrive. B, they're going to continue making the things for us that help other parts of our bodies, like hormones, for instance. A lot of hormones are synthesized in the gut. And the happier the gut is, the less chronic inflammation our bodies will tend to have. So if you are prone to acne, but you go from a high chronically inflamed state to a relatively low chronically inflamed state, back to that morbidity threshold, you might take yourself below that morbidity threshold, whereas you were above it before. And it's possibly just with lifestyle interventions, especially if it's someone who's tons of processed foods, lots of soda they're drinking, that kind of thing. So interesting to think about. And apple cider vinegar is a very low risk, potentially high reward product, in my opinion. Not sure about topically on the skin, though.
We need to know what happened. Person, you commented on our TikTok. What happened to your skin?
We do. I'll put it this way: we do have a skin microbiome. So there are bacteria on our skin that we want to be there and that are healthy for us. So I can hypothesize at least that those bacteria likely like the same type of stuff that the ones in the gut does, and they may see apple cider vinegar as a healthy prebiotic, and kind of like you're feeding the good bacteria in your skin. So that's a guess. And I doubt that it would be particularly harmful, but again, I can't say for sure. I've never done this or looked deeply into it.
I just wouldn't want the smell.
No.
Can you imagine?
That is like the turmeric thing. You're like, oh, this is a great idea, but then I smell like, if someone just say like, put garlic all over your face, it might help. Garlic is a great thing for a lot of reasons, but the benefit of it might not be outweighed by the smell of smelling like garlic everywhere you go. So we have to weigh these consequences of anything we choose, even if it does have benefits.
Yeah, 100%. Someone in our comments said they actually swallowed whole garlic cloves
Oh yeah,
as a way of improving their skin.
Maybe again, garlic is one of those ingredients that has a lot of medicinal uses, and thousands of years of anecdotal data for a lot of these things, and again, relatively low risk. So within what at least that my community in the States calls integrative dermatology, we care about these. We think about them. We try to do more than just the conventional prescription medications and things like that. And oftentimes things we know they have a relatively low risk. So the bar isn't as high for, okay, there needs to be this many large clinical studies that show exactly that this is going to be the average benefit in people and this is the safety data. So the relatively low risk, potentially high reward things like that, there's a lot of them out there, and they deserve more exploration by dermatologists, in my opinion.
I think that person got that from their grandmother, though, the garlic thing. I swear my grandmother used to say that her mum used to force her to eat a whole clove of garlic for her health. So.
Maybe it was vampires and they just didn't want to say it. They said it was.
Oh, maybe. And this is our last one. This person made a mask out of tissue and the white of an egg. That just sounds disgusting to me.
That would be expensive, wouldn't it?
With all
The first thing you said was tissue, like tissue paper, like a tissue for your, and what was the second thing?
the white of an egg. So the
Oh wow, okay, yeah.
yeah.
I plead as we say in the States, at least, I plead the fifth. I have no idea. I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to incriminate myself by not saying something incorrect. I have no idea, but that also sounds like not a pleasant experience. I would definitely want to wash that up afterwards, I think. And it would probably make the tissue sort of fall apart pretty easily. But yeah, egg white, or did you say yolk or white? You said white, right?
White.
Egg white is primarily protein. Albumin is a very common protein in eggs. So I don't think it would be likely harmful unless a person had an egg allergy. But I'm not sure what the benefits would be.
Sounds horrible. Sounds stinky. Sounds ugh.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Eggs are expensive nowadays.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you could we could find a better use of your eggs, especially around here. Eggs are very expensive. We talk about that on the news all the time. So that is even more reason not to put them on your face.
Well, there used to be, when I was younger, there was something about putting eggs in your hair.
Yes.
Was it for fleas or like
No, someone
lice?
at my school said she was like devoted to putting eggs in her hair every day, and I was like,
I've
you're
heard
gonna
everything.
smell.
Eggs.
Really?
I've heard what was it? Ketchup.
What?
Yeah, that was circled around where I lived. Yeah, I don't know if it was because when your hair went green in the
Yeah,
chlorine.
no, apparently it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently it works.
Yeah. Back me up, guys. I don't know. I wouldn't. I hate ketchup, but. But
I like to keep an open mind. And some things sound silly and they end up being effective and having a relatively low risk. But we still have to have our antenna up because of how many people are creating content and information these days. Some people have an ulterior motive. They may be trying to sell something that doesn't have a lot of basis in science. So I'm always wary of that. Anytime someone says like, this is the one thing that paleo diet, all you need to do is like, no, then that raises my suspicion. But if someone is taking a balanced approach and an open-minded, and this combination of things, depending on the person and the context, are generally helpful, that's the people I tend to listen to.
that's good advice, actually. Someone who says it's one thing, be wary.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they're selling something.
Very wary.
One thing, people are selling something. Yeah. So that's my take, at least.
Well, thank you so much. That's the last of our comments. So yeah, thank you for coming onto our podcast. We really, really appreciate it. And we hope you enjoyed again. We've loved doing this for you yet again and reading all your crazy comments. I hope you learned something as well. If you have any questions, connect to our socials and ask us there. We have loads of content on the website as well, which is now live. So
We will see you guys in the next episode. And thank you, Doctor, for coming on and speaking to us. We really appreciate it.
thank you. See you guys later.